After leaving Parker's crew, most fans thought they had seen the last of Chris Doumitt on Gold Rush. But life has a funny way of bringing people back to where they belong. A few seasons later, Chris reappeared on the show. Not as Parker's employee, but as a respected independent miner. This surprised many viewers who had followed his emotional departure. Seeing him again, calm and smiling behind the controls of his own equipment, felt like a moment of closure for fans. He no longer looked like the tired, overworked man who had once been pushed to his physical limits. Instead, Chris seemed relaxed, more confident, and in control of his own path. Viewers noticed the difference immediately. His humor returned, and his easygoing personality once again made him one of the most likable figures in the series. Even though he wasn't part of Parker's main crew anymore, his presence reminded fans of the old days when hard work and friendship were the heart of the show. Many people online wrote comments like, "Gold Rush isn't the same without Chris," or "He's the real soul of the show." That love from the audience proved how deeply he had connected with people, not just as a miner, but as a humble, good-hearted man who represented every hardworking dreamer. Chris's return wasn't about fame or money. It was about doing what he loved, on his own terms. That's something rare in today's world, and it made his story even more inspiring. Mining gold looks exciting on television, but the real work behind the scenes is brutal. Chris Doumitt's story shows what that world can do to a person. Years of bending, lifting, welding, and standing in freezing mud can destroy a body. Chris had mentioned several times that his back pain was constant, and his hands were never free of cuts or bruises. On top of that, there's the mental stress. When you're part of a crew like Parker Schnabel's, the pressure is always on. Every hour lost can mean thousands of dollars gone. That kind of pressure can turn friends into rivals and leaders into perfectionists. Chris worked through all of that, often hiding his pain behind his usual jokes and calm attitude. But no one can live under that kind of strain forever. It wasn't just the physical exhaustion, it was also emotional fatigue. When your best effort never feels enough, it wears down your confidence and spirit. By the time he left Parker's crew, Chris's body needed rest, and his mind needed peace. Yet, walking away from something that defined your life isn't easy. Many people in high-pressure jobs can relate to this. The moment when passion turns into pain. Chris's decision to step back was a lesson that strength isn't always about pushing through. It's also about knowing when to stop. His recovery later showed that sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is choose their well-being over their job. One thing that made Gold Rush special was the friendships viewers believed were real and unbreakable. Chris Doumitt and Parker Schnabel's bond was one of those. Chris treated Parker almost like a son, always patient and respectful, even when things got tense. But television, no matter how real it seems, always has a layer of performance. Cameras catch arguments, mistakes, and emotional moments, but they never show the full truth. Behind the scenes, what the audience sees as drama may sometimes be editing choices or production pressure. Chris once hinted in interviews that things were often more complicated than what made it to the screen. That doesn't mean Parker was a bad person or the show was fake. It just means reality TV often magnifies conflicts to keep people watching. The truth is, both men were trying to succeed in their own ways. Parker had the ambition of a young leader trying to prove himself, while Chris had the wisdom of an older worker who had already learned the value of balance. Their clash wasn't about betrayal. It was about two different generations trying to survive in a tough world. What kept fans hooked was the honesty of that struggle. Even after leaving, Chris never spoke badly about Parker, which says a lot about his character. He chose dignity over drama. That's one reason his fans respect him so deeply. He never turned his story into a fight for attention. Instead, he stayed humble, honest, and grateful for the journey he had. After leaving full-time mining, Chris Doumitt found something that many people spend their whole lives searching for: peace. He began focusing more on himself and his health. Years of physical labor had taken a toll, and slowing down allowed him to heal. But Chris being Chris, he didn't just disappear from the public eye. He continued to engage with fans, attend events, and occasionally work on small mining projects. He also became involved in building his own business, including a cigar brand, which reflected his easygoing and social nature. It wasn't about chasing wealth anymore. It was about doing things he truly enjoyed. Many fans admired this transformation. They saw in him the idea that it's never too late to start over. Even after a demanding career, Chris showed that life can be full of new beginnings. His smile, humor, and hard-working attitude stayed the same, but now there was also calmness behind it. He had found balance between work and happiness. That balance is something many people struggle to find, and Chris's story quietly encourages others to seek it too. He proved that success isn't always about fame or fortune. It's about being content with where you are and what you have. In that sense, he became more than a miner. He became a symbol of resilience, peace, and the courage to change your life when it no longer fits you. Every story leaves behind lessons, and Chris Doumit's journey is full of them. The first lesson is about loyalty. How being loyal doesn't mean losing yourself. Chris gave years of hard work and loyalty to Parker Schnabel's team, but when the time came, he also knew how to walk away with respect. That's true strength. The second lesson is about balance. No matter how much you love your job or your dream, it's not worth your health or peace of mind. Chris's experience reminds us that it's okay to slow down, rest, and take care of ourselves. Another lesson is about humility. Despite his fame, Chris never let ego get in the way. He stayed grounded, polite, and kind to everyone he met. His humility made him stand out in a world that often values fame over character. And finally, there's the lesson of reinvention. Chris proved that you can always start a new chapter in life, no matter your age or background. He went from carpenter to gold miner, from gold miner to small business owner, and from worker to legend. His story shows that no career defines who you are. You define it by how you live, work, and treat people. For fans, Chris Doumitt isn't just a name from a TV show. He's a living example of what hard work, kindness, and self-respect look like in real life. Even though Chris is no longer in every episode of Gold Rush, his presence still feels alive in the hearts of fans. Every time Parker's crew struggles with machinery or team stress, people comment online saying they need Chris back. That kind of impact doesn't fade easily. Over the years, Chris has become a legend not because of how much gold he mined, but because of the person he was while mining it. His patience, humor, and steady personality became the glue that held the chaos together. Younger miners looked up to him, and older viewers saw a bit of themselves in his perseverance. In a show full of noise and competition, Chris brought calmness. His story reminds us that real strength doesn't shout. It works quietly, shows up every day, and does the job with pride. As time passes, his legacy continues to grow beyond Gold Rush. He's become a symbol of what honest labor and humility can achieve. And perhaps that's the best kind of fame. One built not on drama or headlines, but on respect. Chris Doumit's journey from carpenter to gold miner, from exhaustion to peace, will keep inspiring people long after the gold has been mined. When we look back at Chris Doumit's life and career, it's clear that the real treasure he found wasn't in the ground. It was within himself. Gold can make people rich, but it can also make them restless, always wanting more. Chris learned that lesson the hard way. He gave his best years to the hunt for gold, faced pain, pressure, and exhaustion, but in the end, he found something more valuable than all the nuggets combined. Peace of mind, self-respect, and the freedom to choose his own path. His story isn't just about mining. It's about being human. It's about chasing dreams without losing yourself, working hard but knowing when to let go, and valuing people more than money. Chris Doumit's life teaches us that success isn't about how much you have. It's about how happy and proud you are of the life you live. And maybe that's why fans still talk about him today. In a world that moves fast and rewards ambition above all else, Chris stands as a quiet reminder that true wealth is peace, kindness, and balance. That's the kind of gold no one can ever take away. For more than 10 years, Chris Doumitt was one of the most trusted and hardworking members of Parker Schnabel's gold mining crew on Gold Rush. Viewers loved his calm attitude, quick humor, and endless dedication. He was the man who could turn mud into millions, working behind the scenes in the gold room to make sure every flake of gold was counted. But when fans realized Chris was gone from Parker's team, the internet exploded with questions. Many people thought he had simply burned out after years of hard work, but the truth might be much deeper. There were whispers about long hours, physical pain, and even a big disagreement behind closed doors. The show never revealed the full story, but those who followed the crew closely could see something was not right. Chris wasn't just another miner. He was a key part of Parker's success. His sudden departure left a hole in the operation that no one could easily fill. For years, Chris had been the glue holding everything together. But even the strongest person can only take so much pressure before something breaks. The turning point for Chris came during one of Parker's most ambitious seasons yet. Parker wanted to run not one, not two, but 3 wash plants at the same time. On paper, it sounded like a smart move. More dirt meant more gold. But for Chris, it created a living nightmare. He was suddenly responsible for managing cleanups from 3 separate sites, with one of them located 15 miles away from the others. The job of cleaning up gold is already exhausting. Pulling heavy mats, washing them down, and carefully collecting every speck of gold requires both strength and focus. Now imagine doing that 3 times a week across multiple locations, often late into the night. It was more than any one man could handle. The cameras began to show a different side of Chris, a man looking worn down, tired, and frustrated. He told Parker he needed help, that the workload had become impossible for one person. But Parker's eyes were fixed on breaking records, and he believed his team could handle it. The pressure only grew, and for Chris, it became too much. His body hurt, his back pain returned, and his energy was running out. It wasn't just work anymore. It was survival. To outsiders, it looked like Chris simply couldn't keep up with the heavy workload. But those close to the operation say there was more going on behind the scenes. The growing tension between Parker and Chris wasn't only about exhaustion. It was about values. As Parker's business turned into a massive multi-million-dollar operation, the friendly and family-like feeling started to fade. Parker, now a successful young millionaire, became more focused on efficiency, goals, and numbers. He wanted to chase bigger targets, like the $40 million mark in gold. But for Chris, who had already spent decades working hard and battling physical pain, life meant something different. He cared about loyalty, fairness, and respect for the people doing the digging. When he asked for help and didn't get it, he began to feel that his loyalty was being taken for granted. Behind closed doors, sources say, there were heated talks about what loyalty really means. Whether it's staying no matter how hard things get, or knowing when to stand up for yourself. For Chris, that moment had come. He saw that the balance between people and profit had been lost. He realized that no amount of gold could replace peace of mind. Loyalty had always been one of the strongest bonds between Chris and Parker. Their relationship went far beyond a typical boss and worker connection. After Parker's grandfather, John Schnabel, passed away, Chris quietly became the guiding figure in Parker's life, almost like a father or an uncle. He offered wisdom, calmness, and encouragement when Parker was under pressure. Parker trusted him completely, especially with one of the most sensitive parts of the mine, the gold room. Most mining bosses install cameras there to watch the gold handling process, but Parker didn't need to. He once said that if Chris ever retired, then maybe he would think about adding cameras. But not while Chris was in charge. That statement showed how deep the trust ran between them. But ironically, that same trust may have added to Chris's burden. Being the one man Parker trusted completely came with enormous pressure. Every mistake felt heavier. Every decision carried extra weight. Chris wasn't just tired from the labor. He was tired from responsibility. He had Parker's trust, the crew's respect, and the pressure of millions of dollars in gold passing through his hands. In the end, that trust became too heavy to carry alone. To understand why Chris's departure hit so hard, it helps to look back at where he started. Before gold mining, Chris Doumitt was a carpenter from Oregon. For 25 years, he worked as a skilled craftsman, building structures meant to last. His entry into gold mining happened by accident. During the first season of Gold Rush in 2010, the Hoffman crew hired him for a short 10-day job, just to build a cabin on their claim. But that small job changed his life forever. The chaotic world of the Hoffmans drew him in. What was supposed to be 10 days turned into 5 months, and Chris learned everything about mining the hard way, through failure and mistakes. The Hoffmans were known for their risky decisions and constant setbacks, but for Chris, it was like mining school. He saw what worked and what didn't, and he learned to stay calm under pressure. By the time he joined Parker Schnabel's crew in Season 4, he was more than ready for a new chapter. Parker's organized, disciplined style was the complete opposite of the Hoffman chaos. Together, they formed one of the strongest partnerships in the show's history. When Chris joined Parker, it wasn't just another job. It was a perfect match. Parker was young, ambitious, and hungry to prove himself. Chris was older, wiser, and knew how easily things could fall apart if the wrong choices were made. From the beginning, they respected each other. Parker saw in Chris the kind of experience and maturity that his young team lacked. Chris saw in Parker the same determination